You know, this topic isn't going to be easy for me, but I'm going to do it. I waited all day, waited for kiddo to finish with school so that I could get this out of my system, but this isn't going to be an easy one, y'all. I didn't even think I was going to do a mental health vlog this week, but like everything, content seems to just drop itself in my lap, and there's just certain things that trigger me. And I need people to understand where I'm coming from because I am one of the fortunate humans who live life as a sociopath, which a lot of people do not understand still, and they make that abundantly clear when I explain to them that I'm a diagnosed sociopath, and they think that it's not possible because I show kindness and I can be decent to people, and it just shows how society automatically assumes the absolute worst about people with the traits that I have. And, fair enough, there are a lot of people with what I have that do lean into it. It is a struggle. I can justify things that I know I shouldn't. That's why I work hard not to do it. Now, the things that set me off today and the reason why I taped this mental health vlog was this. If you're asking yourself what the heck this is, good. You probably are smart enough not to listen to the artist that created this. But for the rest of us and most of the world, you know that Kanye West put out a new album and decided to do a visual animation that pretty much channels all the rage, control issues, and abusive personality that people thought, oh, this is just Kanye being Kanye. This is just Yeezy. I'm telling you, as a sociopath, we will test the waters, whether it's with our writing, our art, what the we point blank tell you aspects of our personality. And depending on how many people back us, how many fans we have, how many people cheer our names, we will see how far along that line we can cross because we know that this is just a test. What Kanye is doing to both Kim and Pete is unacceptable. And I'm not a Kim Kardashian fan. I don't like her. I don't like her sisters. I don't like what they stand for. Her family literally rips off my existence, wears it as an accessory, knowing that they will never fully understand what it's like to exist as a black woman, but they can pick and choose which features of ours they can inject into themselves and portray our culture and our aesthetics in a cartoonish almost fashion. So when I say that I am not okay with the way this is going on, this is not me saying, "Oh, I am such a huge fan of his wife." I don't care for her, and like most things I don't care for, I just normally don't bother with. But as somebody who has survived abuse, seeing this tell that he keeps dropping, this instability that he has had for years is unacceptable. I am telling you this as somebody who has both survived abuse and had to fight the dark thoughts that I sometimes have when I get to that brink. You gotta stop enabling Kanye's behavior. This was a tell. I don't want to hear anybody saying anything when that man finally goes, you know what? I'm going to take these threats further. I am going to take my actions further. People are not hearing what I'm saying with my music. People are not getting how angry I am. I need to take it further. We have seen famous men take things to that level and get away with it. In the case of OJ, it's funny that fucker literally giving pro Putin interviews when it's like, you dodged karma's bullet once. You already went to jail. You need to lay low for the rest of your life, man. But that's the problem with us sociopaths when we achieve levels of fame. We can't help ourselves. Being in that limelight and knowing that power of getting away with something as vile and as visceral as violence is dangerous. And Kanye has been letting us know for a while that he is not okay. He has not been okay since his mama passed, and maybe even beyond. And I know some people like his music. There's plenty of tunes of his that I used to bob my head to, exercise to sometimes, and really enjoy because he does have a pulse on certain things when he rhymes. But you cannot ignore the abusive tells. I put myself out there again on Twitter today, and it's not easy for me, but I realized that I can't just talk mental health in a way that is comfortable and make people understand. I need people to know the levels that I go to when I'm upset, when I am pushed. And I am far from the only woman that does it, but they get called hysteria and hysterical. One of the things that I opened up about on Twitter was the fact that one of my darkest days was not the day that I decided I didn't want to be here anymore, even though that was a pretty dark day for me. It was the day that I said, you know what, enough's enough. I'm sick of this. I have people coming to me and saying, your husband's trying to sleep with me. He gave me love notes and I just thought you should know. Or your husband got on camera with me and, I'm underage, but I think I'm in love with him. And all the stuff he was doing to me, both physically and mentally, was it. I got to the breaking point. So I waited with a butcher knife behind my back for him to come through the door because we lived in an efficiency. And I remember this day because I remember how I was feeling. I felt justified. All the hurt, all the constant humiliation, all the physical and mental pain welled up in me. And I was like, this is how I'm going to handle this. And I rationalized it in my head that this is how it had to be. And I raised that knife as soon as he came through that door. And what stopped me wasn't me calming down, like I've said in other stories, and I'll bring up another story after this, but it was a friend of ours who had came with him that day. And he is lucky that he brought that friend with him that day because a friend put himself between me and him, stopped me from bringing that knife down, and calmed me down. I know admitting this could probably get me in trouble, even though it was well over 17 years ago. But I was at my wit's end. I felt cornered. I felt scared. I felt enraged. I felt justified. And that's the most dangerous thing to a sociopath is when we can finally put aside any, could I get in trouble for this? I don't care. Justifying it and realizing that that line isn't that hard for me to cross is the most dangerous thing. It is why I do things to keep my house calm, to stay away from stressors, to stay away from situations where I have to deal with the fact that I would do it. I would take that knife and plunge it into him. And he is not the first person I have drawn a butcher knife on. And I need to make that clear to people. When I was younger, we lived right adjacent to the projects in this place called the Markham Homes on Staten Island. And they weren't much better. They were low income housing. My mom wanted to break out from her parents, be on her own, and got us into low income housing. And it was all right. I lived near my best friend, went to school, everything seemed normal, but there was always these guys that just they thought that they had the right to harass you, whether it was to tell you you're ugly while trying to get you to kiss them, beat you up because you just reminded them of somebody they didn't like. It was hell. And we had this one big dude who most of the neighborhood knew he would shovel your walk for money or threaten your life if he didn't like you. And for some reason at that point, he had a crush on me. I had already survived a sexual assault, so I was already kind of tense at that point, and it was right before we were going to up and move. So everybody knew we were leaving the neighborhood, so that place became like a hangout place. I was sitting on my steps, and he came over. He decided that was the night he was going to try to make his move. And he kept trying to get me to kiss him, and I did not want it. I didn't want anybody touching me. I was sick and tired of being touched by guys that I was not into. I was only fucking 14 years old and I was tired of being an object. So I smiled in his face because I have a way about me. I can convince people with just the look that I'm on their side. And I said, wait right here. I just have to check on my sisters and make sure my mom's not calling, and then we can make out. I remember how calm I felt because in my brain, I was like, okay, bet. I can't do this to the guy who physically did what he did to me, but I'm going to get my revenge for every guy like this. Every guy that doesn't understand that I am not here for you to do this to. And I went into my kitchen, got the biggest butcher knife I could, came back outside, and I was going to take that man's life. And I say man, but he was a guy. He was a kid too. He was only, I think, 16 at that point. But for me, being much smaller, much more vulnerable, and sick and freaking tired of this garbage, I had no problem justifying why he needed to die. I don't know what happened after that, except he got on a bike and tried to ride away, and I chased him. And I think it was an uncle of mine, my favorite uncle, that seen what was going on, stopped me, asked me what was going on, and then got me home. Because it's still kind of a blur. I just remember that he and I ran, well, I ran, he was on the bike for quite a while. And it was almost like a scene from a horror movie because I was determined to end my suffering that I felt he was going to put on me for rejecting him. After that, he left me alone. And I started to realize the power in fear, which is very dangerous for us. Mental manipulation is a good thing when you want people to leave you the fuck alone. And it's a tool that I use. And I'm not afraid to utilize people's fear to protect me and mine. That is a tendency that the doctors say is sociopathy. And it's the reality of my situation. I know that I could and that I would take somebody out if I had to protect myself, to defend those I love. It is why when Kiddo was dealing with a bully back when we lived in North Carolina, that I made the decision to not get upset at the child that was hitting my kid, making his life miserable, but to take it to the source and made sure that they knew in front of a whole room of people that if this didn't stop, I was taking it to them. Because the life I grew up with, the people that I was raised around, the amount of manipulation, blurred lines, and right and wrong taught me that intimidation works. Letting somebody know that you will destroy them when they are raising a little angry person tends to make them keep their little angry person in check because it might not stop their kids from having those issues, but it will stop their kids from bringing their issues to my doorstep. And that is how I grew up, and that is how I handle things in life. It is not an easy existence because I really struggle sometimes with the line, that blurred line of I could probably get away with this, so why shouldn't I? It's not easy. And there are a lot of people like me out there that a lot of people go, you're a good person. I try to be. I don't do it because it's what I'm supposed to do. I do it because I know it's easier to exist like this. I just don't talk to a lot of people offline. I know what to say online. But people exhaust me to an extreme level. When people try to push close to me offline, I shut it down really quick because I know the moment they get too close, I cannot hide the aspects of my personality like I do well in Twitter and everything else. They see the volatileness when I get upset. They hear the things that come out of my mouth that most people would go, ooh. That doesn't seem right to him, but that is the reality. And the problem with men like Kanye is this society has allowed their overtures of awfulness to be construed as love, to be construed as artistic and just expressing himself, when he is laying the pattern of abuse. And as somebody who survived abuse, but also has the duality of knowing how far I could take things when I'm upset, don't give us justification and don't encourage this behavior. I don't have to like Kim Kardashian or Pete Davidson to realize that what Kanye's doing is dangerous. To draw the parallels to years ago in the 90s when a certain famous football player turned actor decided, I'm big enough and famous enough to get away with it, and did. We have to stop encouraging this. We have to stop treating men who are abusive as they're just keeping us in our place. We women need to stop allowing that to be our place. We are not a punching bag. Our issues are not enough to justify them hurting us. And we have to start taking ownership of our own ways and being better, but not accepting that awful societal burden that our femininity means we're allowed to be treated like garbage. Because that is the root of what's going on in this Kardashian West drama. People are really showing that toxic side of, well, she's his wife, so she can just deal with it, or she's famous, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Because if somebody that wealthy, that well known, can have her life on display like that and have a toxic, volatile partner stalk, harass, threaten, and act unstable, what do you think it does to people who don't have that cushion of, at least I have this notoriety to somehow cushion me with my own fans? What do you say to the women who are currently in a relationship where not only are they getting emotionally and physically abused, but they have a partner whose friends hype him up and say, oh yeah, you need to keep that B in line? Or even worse, because there are women that do this too, that beat up their male partners, and those people, those abuse victims, they get no place to turn and speak up about the situation because they know society would just punk them out. It's an unfair world we're in, but some of you make it really easy for those who want to keep it unfair. And Kanye's actions are a clear calling card to him willing and wanting to step over that line. I get breakups aren't easy. I get when you can't control the way the breakup's happening and you can't tell people how to feel, when to be, when to leave, when to stay. It can grate on you. I also get that you think that I can just disguise my rage in a song, show visuals of decapitating and burying and turning the head of my ex's new dating material or boyfriend. I don't even know what to classify what Kim and Pete are doing right now, because you want to mind your business, honestly. I hate that we have such a culture where celebrities' relationships are on display like this. I hate that people are so nosy that this is a topic. The only silver lining I could take from this is that so many of us who have dealt with abusive people see the clear signs of what Kanye's doing as wrong. But he has far too many fans and far too many enablers, both famous and non, not getting this man help. And he needs it. Because I'm telling you, I am not being hyperbolic. I am telling you, as somebody who has almost crossed that line more than once, whether it was fighting somebody and hitting them so hard to see if I could cave their head in. Whether it was grabbing a knife because I was at that point of, I am going to do this. This is how I am going to free myself from this situation. If you give a sociopath enough enabling of their justification of crossing over to that dark side, we will take it. You have to be wary and you have to be willing to see that, yeah, we don't process things like average people, and that struggle is real, but we are responsible for our acts and we can dial it back. But it takes care, it takes time, and it takes understanding that sometimes we do and we say things that aren't exactly normal. We channel that rage, sometimes creatively, but it's still rage and it's still dangerous if unchecked. What Kanye is doing is telling the whole world, I am hurting, I am pissed off, and I want to hurt others. And people are just going, well, it's a bop. Let's support this. Let's go to his listening parties. Let's work with him and make that money because they don't care who gets hurt. Or some in this twisted part hope that it goes this way because they get sick pleasure from it. And y'all are the worst. And the bad part is I can even understand y'all's motivation because it can be morbidly curious to watch people with everything devolve into this. But it's not okay. And you should be shamed for even encouraging this awful side and ignoring that this man has been amping this up for years now. And we are seeing the raw, unabashed, abusive tendencies of him. There was no reason for him to have this video greenlit where he decapitates somebody for daring to date his ex. But this was Kanye's way of saying, this is how upset I am. And some of you are just allowing this man to be openly abusive because you either like his music, you think he's a lyrical or artistic or fashion genius. You think his level of fame shields him from criticism, or that his criticizers are just haters. And some of us are just survivors who had to put up with our own non-famous version of Yeezy, that narcissistic fuckwad who thinks I can step out on you, abuse you both mentally and physically, and get away with it because I'm the man of the house and you're just a woman, and your only value is what you can give me in the bedroom. And once I'm done with you, that is it. And we have allowed this twisted sensibility for far too long. And that is why I put that tweet out that I feel like this world is lucky that I have the brain that I have as a sociopath and the body and spirit of a black woman, because it has saved my life and possibly a lot of other people's lives. And it's not 100% because, like I said, my ex almost met the end of his life. That guy, when I was 14, coming off of a very serious sexual assault, nearly lost his life. And I feel for the next person that makes me feel like my life is in jeopardy because I'm not playing with them. This is why I separate myself. This is why I keep my circle very small offline. This is why I don't interact willingly with people unless I absolutely have to. Because I fear how easily I can justify defending myself and taking it to that level. And this is what I think people need to see, because a lot of people don't understand what this life is about. You hear sociopath and you automatically assume that we all gleefully just want to kill people. We all gleefully just plan, and we want to be the next Dexter, when the reality of the situation is social norms exhaust us. We don't understand why people make things so stupidly complicated. Things like love as an emotion that we realize is kind of foolish and exhausting, and that a real relationship is just work, and two people who want to tolerate each other or find each other interesting just being together. And I know by saying this, some people go, ooh, it doesn't feel right, Tim. That isn't nice. And I get it. But being nice to me is so exhausting. I get making people feel good. I understand that making people smile is a good thing. But the whole thing that some people call nice, I have seen for myself how fake it is. Some of the people that you champion because they talk certain causes, but they talk about themselves over those causes. Certain things where people are well known for doing nice things, but then you find out that they're not nice people because they know that you will amplify the nice things they do and ignore the toxic things they do. I see that as a sociopath, and it's like people don't realize how easily exploitable their feelings are. And that is very dangerous to those of us who don't care about crossing over to that dark side and not looking back. But those of us who are just trying to exist, who realize that our thoughts are sometimes abnormal, our rage is very vast, our emotions go every which way, and that figuring stuff out sometimes means breaking things open and then sorting through the mess and then trying to patch it back together. This is a reality for us, and I am begging you, if you have somebody like that in your life, don't enable the bad. Don't enable the anger and violent tendencies. Get them help. Kanye West needs help. Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson need to protect themselves, get all the security, and we all need to stop being onlookers hoping for the worst and get this person the help he needs because I can't foresee anything but bad coming from this. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I'm hoping by doing this, you get a little bit more insight to this way of mine. But these aren't easy for me. I feel drained just giving this part of myself because I hate over sharing my life. But I feel like in this world and in this day and age, if you don't speak up, too many people speak for you when they're not living this life. And I am capable of telling you how it is with me. I am lucid enough to tell you how it is with me because schizophrenia has not taken that from me again. Getting help has helped me keep my mind straight enough to explain to you what this is like. So I am trying so hard to explain to you as somebody who's both survived living with an abuser and skirted the line myself of being violent. Don't allow us to justify this and get them help before they step over that line. I'll talk to you again hopefully next week. Thank you for tuning into this.